The expansion slot has been nothing short of a net positive success for Flesh and Blood. There's little question that the game, and specifically its product releases, are in a much better spot after the implementation of this concept. But there is one ever so slight drawback. The injected cards only enter as Majestic rarity, which in this game mechanically means that they enter as one-ofs in terms of pitch value. So while underperforming heroes and archetypes have a continuous pathway to get help, it doesn't help solve the problem of someone's fundamentally underdeveloped kit.
A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando.
So I'd like to open today's cast with the problem statement and then my thesis statement, which I believe will help put into context much of today's video. The problem statement at hand is, I believe the practice of upskilling heroes via bombs changes their ceiling, when often the root cause is instead a weak foundation. And the thesis statement of today is that I believe the Armory Deck product line should serve as a fundamental upskill pathway as opposed to simply raising the ceiling via releasing higher powered cards. Hey there, my Flesh and Blood friends, and welcome back to the channel, and happy Flesh and Blood Friday. Now, today we're talking the expansion slot, which, surprisingly enough, has only been a thing for not even quite 2 years now, which is odd because it almost kind of certainly feels like it's kind of always been that way at this point, so it's kind of funny how times change. But part of the reason I think it feels that way is because the expansion slot itself has inarguably been a net positive and ultimately very popular within the community. However, there does remain a bit of a gap which I believe could be filled by the Armory Deck product line, but has yet to do so. Now, for all intents and purposes, the expansion slot has stepped in and replaced the supplemental sets of old. Now, see, in the olden days of Fab, us old-timers used to get a non-draftable set roughly once per year, which gave rounded support to all classes in the game at the time. With Flesh and Blood's original release model, the only classes that would get direct support in a draftable set were those featured within that set, and the other classes left to hope for some scraps out of the generic card pool. And with only 3 or 4 classes featured within a draft set, it meant that even an equal rotation would mean a given class may, potentially, have to wait upwards of an entire year for class-specific support. Hence, the supplemental set model. Off-cycle, non-draftable products in which all classes had equal opportunity for support and would traditionally offer alternative playstyles and alternative play options. In fact, those crazy assassins were actually introduced in such a set, Dynasty, providing a functional base for the class outside of a draftable set. Now, many of these supplemental sets, particularly Crucible of War and Everfest, were absolutely crucial tools developing the game and leveling up to many class strategies. In fact, Old Man Dice Commando has a whole video about how impactful Everfest was as a set, creating ripples and foundations that will forever be felt in this game. Now, over time, of course, the supplemental set model began to face headwinds as a product, and with bright lights came the expansion slot, a new feature that offers new content to support a range of heroes outside those featured in the product itself. Not only did this create a pathway for hero or class tech injections within every single expansion, but it also eliminated the need for the supplemental sets. And there's little doubt that overall, not only is this method more popular with the player base, but it also seems to better support Flesh and Blood's continuous product pipeline, and, with it, product sales, with zero break in draftable sets. Overall, a net positive, and an overall win. That said, there were some definite advantages to the supplemental set model. Mainly, the introduction of en masse, fundamental ground-level support for certain classes, playstyles, and archetypes. Case in point, while a card like Unsheathed is a massive bomb-type pickup for sword-wielding warriors, a full-color arc of a card like Blade Runner is more essential and effective to the upskilling of the class as a whole. To explain further, a card like Unsheathed is really just an upgrade to an existing style, making that particular archetype stronger. Whereas a full arc like Blade Runner enables the archetype, especially when released as a package alongside cards like Slice and Dice and In the Swing. In other words, cards like Unsheathed improve effectiveness, whereas a Blade Runner forms the fundamental backbone. And this is where the expansion slot serving as a supplemental set replacement has, in a way, faltered. Existing and previously defined archetypes gain new tools and upskilling, but playstyles that are fundamentally lacking and need baseline support, they remain on shaky ground. To my earlier problem statement, increasing the ceiling doesn't matter if we're built on a weak foundation. Now, to be completely fair here, we have seen expansion slots dedicated to full kits. The Assassin AB Spell Void arc and the Teklavasi and various AB and Evo arcs, but to date it's only been equipment. And again, coming in at Majestic rarity, we wouldn't expect to see a full color arc appear in the expansion slot. The closest we would expect to come, probably, is something more along the lines of, say, Fang's Blade Stance series. But now, enter into the discussion the Armory deck product line. Armory decks focus on the build-out of a specific hero, both beefing up a hero's playstyle and offering entry-friendly foundations. As such, Armory decks originally came with the potential of supporting full color arcs, but ultimately, at least to date, have really only served as super expansion slots, in that newly introduced cards have come in as one-ofs. And to be fair, it doesn't mean that we won't ever see a full color arc in an Armory deck. In fact, the whole idea here is that I'm hoping we will. It's just that it hasn't happened yet. But there certainly is hope. The recently released Aurora Armory deck introduced the first ever Armory exclusive common, Spark Spray Red. And while it didn't come with the color arc in the deck itself, it did complete the already existing yellow and blue versions from the First Strike deck. Now no, this isn't exactly what I was referring to, and certainly Spark Spray wasn't exactly something Aurora was missing from her fundamental kit. But I do believe it's a strong signal in the direction that LSS acknowledges the role these decks can play in fundamental support rather than just dropping bombs. Furthermore, as a huge proponent of budget-focused formats like Commoner and Clash, I'm really looking to the Armory decks as vehicles for de-raritization. Certain cards may need to be given their rarity based on their role within the limited formats, but the card may actually be fundamental to a hero within the constructed formats. So, once the card is removed from the limited environment, a derating of rarity has no side impact and can help to bolster the budget formats. And again, this is something we have indeed seen on a very limited, if you excuse the term, basis, such as the de-raritization of Valiant Thrust Yellow and Battlefield Blitz Yellow in the Boltyn Armory decks. Additionally, the issuing of Spark Spray Red in the Aurora Armory deck also gives hope that the new cards can be introduced in these products as more than just one-ofs. At the time of this recording, the next Armory deck product is the Max Nitro deck, a hero who really needs significant fundamental support. Now, certainly we can expect to see a bomb or two, or three, as that's how sales works, but dare to say, will we get a new fundamental arc or two in the deck? After all, the new weapon seems to want cards underneath it. Will the two drivers for the flip be it, or will we finally see a fully supported arc to help to that end? We'll have to wait and see, of course, but it is a distinct possibility. So with the acknowledgement of the success of the expansion slot and its important role going forward, and at the risk of being overly dramatic, help us Armory decks, you're our only hope. Our only hope for off-cycle, full archetype upskilling in the form of fundamental, foundational support. I'm very excited to see how the Armory decks evolve in the coming years, as well as, of course, what new and exciting hero options we get. So let me know in the comments what you're hoping for, and if you agree with my thoughts here today. But at the very least, my friends, thanks for watching, and go Commando.